The crystal glasses clinked against fine china as Sarah Thompson, my sister, hosted another one of her elite family dinners. I sat quietly at the far end of the table, watching my brother-in-law Marcus, the self-proclaimed business genius, hold court with his usual audience of admirers. At 42, he wore his CEO status like a crown, each word dripping with the kind of confidence that only came from never having faced real failure. And that's how I closed the Anderson merger, he concluded, basking in the appreciative murmurs from our gathered family. Biggest deal of the quarter. Some people just understand business at a different level. His eyes flickered to me, lips curling into what my sister probably thought was a charming smile. I took another sip of wine, already knowing what was coming. These monthly family dinners had become Marcus's favorite stage for his particular brand of subtle cruelty. Speaking of business, he turned fully towards me now. Claire, how's that little, what do you call it, consulting thing of yours? It's going well, I replied evenly, noting how my sister Sarah straightened in her chair, eager for the show to begin. At 38, I learned that the best defense against Marcus's barbs was calm dignity. Still working from home, right? He chuckled, swirling his expensive bourbon. You know, when Sarah told me her sister was in business too, I expected something more professional. How can anyone take you seriously without even a proper office? My mother shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Dad suddenly found his roasted vegetables fascinating. They'd long ago chosen their side in the family dynamic, and it wasn't mine. My clients seemed satisfied, I said, spearing a piece of perfectly cooked salmon. Marcus had insisted on catering from the city's most expensive restaurant, another chance to display his wealth. Clients? Marcus barked out of a laugh. Is that what we're calling the local coffee shops and boutiques now? You know, Claire, if you ever want real business advice. Actually, a deep voice cut through the dining room. Our client list is quite impressive. All heads turned to Richard Anderson. Yes, that Anderson, of the merger Marcus had just been bragging about. He'd been quietly observing from the other end of the table, where Marcus had seated him as the guest of honor. In fact, Anderson continued, setting down his fork, my daughter's company has been trying to get on her waiting list for months. Claire's firm is rather selective about who they take on. The silence that fell over the table was absolute. I could hear Sarah's sharp intake of breath, see Marcus's face transition from confidence to confusion. Your daughter's company, Marcus managed, his voice suddenly less certain. Megan Anderson, CEO of Horizon Tech. Richard smiled warmly in my direction. Claire's firm handled the Matthews Group acquisition last year. Brilliant strategy, by the way. When Megan told me who was behind it, I could hardly believe someone so young had orchestrated such a complex deal. But then, real talent doesn't need corner offices to prove itself, does it? I watched the color drain from Marcus's face as realization dawned. The Matthews acquisition had been the talk of the business world, a $400 million deal that had transformed the tech landscape, and I'd orchestrated it from my home office, the one he'd been mocking moments before. I had no idea, Marcus stammered, his earlier bravado evaporating. Obviously, I replied softly, allowing myself a small smile. More wine, anyone? Sarah's hand shook as she gripped her glass, her perfect hostess composure cracking. Our mother's mouth had fallen open slightly, and Dad was now staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. Claire, Marcus started, his tone shifting to something almost ingratiating. Why did you ever mention that I handle major corporate acquisitions, that my little consulting thing advises Fortune 500 companies? I set down my wine glass carefully. You never asked, Marcus. You were too busy telling everyone how successful you are. Richard Anderson chuckled. And speaking of success, Claire, I hope you'll consider taking Horizon Tech on as a client. Megan's been quite persistent about wanting to work with you. Of course, Marcus jumped in. Anything for family. I'm sure Claire would be happy to. I'm afraid my schedule is quite full, I interrupted smoothly. But Mr. Anderson, please tell Megan to have her team send over the proposal. I'll review it personally. Marcus's face flushed red. The Anderson merger he'd been bragging about minutes ago, his biggest deal of the quarter, was worth less than half of what I handled for Matthews. And now his direct line to Richard Anderson was watching me with obvious respect while barely acknowledging Marcus's presence. Claire, Sarah found her voice, though it trembled slightly, Why didn't you tell us? All these years. Tell you what, Sarah. That while you and Marcus were mocking my little business, I was building one of the most respected consulting firms in the industry. That the home office you love to ridicule has closed deals worth billions? I dabbed my lips with the linen napkin. Would you have believed me? Or would you have just found new ways to diminish my success? The truth hung heavy in the air. They wouldn't have believed me. They'd been too invested in their narrative of Marcus as the family's business genius and me as the struggling younger sister who couldn't quite measure up. But your clothes. Sarah gestured weakly at my simple black dress. Your car, you live in that small house. Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone, I replied. Success speaks for itself. It doesn't need designer labels or luxury cars to be real. Richard Anderson nodded approvingly. That's precisely why your reputation in the industry is so sterling, Claire. No flash, all substance. The exact opposite of. His eyes flickered to Marcus briefly. Certain other approaches. Marcus's hand tightened around his bourbon glass. His carefully cultivated image of business brilliance was crumbling, and with it his standing in the family. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Mr. Anderson, I turned to Richard, ignoring Marcus's attempts to catch my eye. I'd love to hear more about Horizon Tech's expansion plans. Perhaps over dinner next week. I know a wonderful little place. The new French restaurant on Fifth. Marcus interjected desperately. I'm a member there. At Cold. Actually, I smiled. I own it. One of my small side investments. Nothing like running a major corporation, of course, but it turns a nice profit. The restaurant Marcus had been trying to get a membership to for months. The one he bragged about finally getting into. He'd never known that every time he dined there, he'd been in my establishment. Sarah's wine glass slipped from her fingers, staining the pristine tablecloth red. But for once she didn't rush to clean it up. She was too busy staring at me, really seeing me for the first time in years. The thing about success, I continued, standing up from the table, is that it doesn't need an audience to be real. While you were all focused on Marcus's latest promotion or Sarah's country club membership, I was building something lasting, something real. I reached for my simple leather handbag, not designer, but handmade by an artisan I'd helped start their business. Thank you for dinner, Sarah. Mr. Anderson, I'll have my office contact you about that dinner next week. As I walked toward the door, I heard Marcus's strained voice. Claire, wait, perhaps we should discuss. Discuss what? I turned back briefly. How you spent years mocking my business? How you treated me like a failure because I didn't brag about my success? Or maybe how you're suddenly interested in my little consulting thing now that you know who my clients are. The silence was deafening. Sarah had sunk back in her chair, her perfect dinner party in ruins. Our parents were looking anywhere but at me. And Marcus looked like a man watching his carefully constructed world crumble. Send me the dinner bill, Sarah, I called over my shoulder. I know how Marcus hates to spend money on family charity cases. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, leaving them to digest not just their expensive catered meal, but the realization that they'd spent years underestimating exactly the wrong person. And this was just the beginning, because what they didn't know, what Marcus was about to find out, was that his company's upcoming merger, the one he'd been counting on to secure his position as CEO, was about to face an unexpected complication. One that had everything to do with the sister-in-law he dismissed for so long. The morning after the dinner party, my phone exploded with notifications. Text messages from Sarah, voicemails from Marcus, even emails from my parents, all suddenly desperate to clear up any misunderstandings. I smiled, remembering Marcus's face when Richard Anderson had revealed who I really was. But I wasn't interested in their belated attempts at reconciliation. I had a merger to stop. You see, what Marcus didn't know, what he'd been too arrogant to investigate, was that his company's upcoming merger wasn't just another deal. It was a carefully orchestrated plan, one I'd been developing for months. Claire, my assistant's voice came through the intercom of my home office. Yes, the same one Marcus had mocked. Mr. Anderson is on line 1. I picked up the phone, settling into my ergonomic chair. My little home office might not have impressed Marcus, but its technology rivaled any corporate headquarters. Richard, good morning. Claire, his warm voice filled the line. I must say, dinner last night was enlightening. Your brother-in-law seems to be having quite the morning. He's been trying to reach me since dawn. I could imagine. Marcus's entire career hinged on this merger, the one he thought would cement his position as CEO, the one he'd been bragging about at every family gathering for months. Has he figured it out yet? I asked, pulling up the merger documents on my triple monitors. Not yet, Richard chuckled, though he might want to take a closer look at who's been quietly buying shares in his company over the past 6 months. Ah, yes, the investment firm that had been accumulating a significant stake in Marcus's company, the one operating through a series of shell companies, the one that through a complex web of corporations belonged to me. Claire. Sarah's name flashed on my phone again. I declined the call. Your sister seems persistent, Richard observed. They all are, now that they know. I signed off on another document, watching as my ownership percentage ticked up another fraction. Amazing how success changes people's perspective. The next few days were a symphony of panic from Marcus's corner. He finally started digging into the merger details, probably hoping to impress me with his business acumen. Instead, he discovered something terrifying. His company was being systematically purchased by an unknown entity. You have to help me. He cornered me outside my favorite coffee shop, not coincidentally, one of my first consulting clients. Claire, whatever bad blood there is between us, this is my career we're talking about. I took a sip of my artisanal latte. Funny, I thought it was just a little coffee shop last month when you mocked me for helping them expand. I was wrong, okay. He ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up in a way Sarah would have hated. I was arrogant and stupid, but please, if this merger falls through, then what, Marcus? You'll have to work your way up like everyone else. Start something from scratch. Build a business without writing on your family name. His face paled. We both knew he'd never built anything himself. His CEO position had come through connections, not competence. The same connections he used to belittle me at every opportunity. My phone buzzed again. A notification from my legal team. Another block of shares acquired. We were getting close. The board meeting is next week, Marcus said desperately. They're expecting me to present the merger details. But this unknown buyer, if they gain controlling interest, then you'd be answerable to them. I finished for him. Imagine that. The great Marcus Thompson having to justify his business decisions to someone else. The realization dawned in his eyes slowly. Claire, the buyer, it's not. My phone buzzed again. A text from Richard Anderson. Megan's team just sent over the Horizon Tech proposal. Impressive plans. Shame about Marcus's company. They would have made a good partner if their leadership was different. I showed Marcus the text, watched as the last pieces clicked into place. You're going to destroy everything I've built, he whispered. No, Marcus. I'm going to show you what real business looks like. I stood up, smoothing my simple but immaculately tailored dress. The board meeting is at 2 p.m. next Thursday, correct? Don't worry about preparing anything. I'll be handling the presentation. The week that followed was chaos. Sarah showed up at my house twice, begging me to reconsider. He's family, she pleaded, as if she hadn't spent years treating me like an embarrassment. My parents tried next. Think about what this will do to the family name. Dad argued. The same family name that hadn't stopped them from laughing at Marcus's jokes about my cute little business. But the real satisfaction came at the board meeting. I walked into the room Marcus had dominated for so long, taking my seat at the head of the table. The other board members, old men who'd never questioned Marcus's leadership, stared in confusion. Gentlemen, I began, as Marcus slumped in his chair. I represent Quantum Ventures, the investment firm that now holds a controlling interest in this company. We've reviewed the proposed merger extensively, and we have some concerns about the current leadership strategy. For the next hour, I methodically laid out every mistake Marcus had made, every rushed decision, every missed opportunity, every instance where he chosen flash over substance. The board members' expressions shifted from confusion to concern to outright alarm. Therefore, I concluded, our first act as majority shareholder will be to recommend new leadership. Someone who understands that real business success isn't about corner offices or country club memberships. It's about solid strategy, careful planning, and actual results. Marcus stood up, his face red. You can't do this. I built this company. Did you? I pulled out a folder. Because our analysis shows that company value has actually decreased under your leadership. The only thing keeping your position secure was this merger, a merger that as of this morning is no longer happening. The board erupted in chaos. Marcus tried to speak, but his voice was drowned out by angry shareholders demanding explanations. I sat quietly, watching years of his carefully constructed facade crumble. Oh, and Marcus, I added as he headed for the door, his career in shambles. You might want to start looking for a new country club membership. The one you have is about to be discontinued. The aftermath was everything I'd planned for. Marcus was forced to resign, his reputation in tatters. Sarah's social circle, the one she used to mock my simple lifestyle, suddenly discovered that the sister they dismissed was now controlling one of the city's largest companies. My parents called a family meeting, probably hoping to salvage something from the wreckage. I attended out of curiosity. You've made your point, Mom said, her voice trembling. Surely we can fix this as a family. I looked around the table. Marcus, without his designer suit and corporate swagger. Sarah, her perfect image tarnished by association. My parents finally forced to acknowledge that their golden couple wasn't so golden after all. Fix what? I asked calmly. I simply did business. Isn't that what Marcus always wanted? For me to understand real business. But it's destroyed him, Sarah protested. His career, his reputation. No, I corrected her. His arrogance destroyed him. His need to diminish others to feel important. I just showed everyone what was already there. I stood up, gathering my things. The company will do better under new leadership. The shareholders will be happier, and Marcus, well, I hear there's good money in running a home-based business. If you can handle working without a proper office, that is. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. 5 years later, the company had doubled in value under new leadership. I'd merged it with Horizon Tech, creating one of the largest tech consultancies in the country. Marcus had tried starting his own firm, but without his corporate title and family connections, he discovered that business success required more than a corner office and an expensive suit. Sarah still hosted family dinners, though they were considerably less grand now. Sometimes, when I attended, I'd catch Marcus staring at my simple clothes and modest lifestyle with new understanding. He finally learned what I'd known all along: real success doesn't need to announce itself. The small home office where I built my empire remained unchanged, but now, on its wall, hung a framed photo from that last board meeting. Marcus's face, as he realized that the sister-in-law he dismissed had orchestrated his downfall, was a masterpiece of karmic justice. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they never saw coming. As for me, I still prefer working from home, still drive my reliable car, still live in my comfortable but modest house. But now, when Marcus passes me in his much reduced circumstances, he understands a fundamental truth. True power isn't in what you show, it's in what you know. And I'd known, all along, exactly what I was building. The sound of my sister Rachel's words still echoed in my ears as I sat in my car outside our family home. The same house where we'd grown up, where Mom had raised us after Dad died, where everything had fallen apart in the past year. My name is Emma Mitchell, and at 29, I'd just been disowned by my family because of lies my sister had spent months carefully crafting. The irony was, I had proof that would destroy her carefully constructed narrative. I just wasn't ready to use it yet. The USB drive felt heavy in my jacket pocket, Mom's final gift to me, given in secret during one of her last lucid moments in the hospital. Not yet, Emmy, she'd whispered, her voice weak but her eyes sharp. Wait until you really need it. You'll know when. That was 3 weeks ago. Now Mom was gone, buried just yesterday, and Rachel had finally succeeded in what she'd been working toward for months, turning our entire family against me. I started the car, catching a glimpse of Rachel watching from the living room window. She'd always been the perfect daughter, the one who'd stayed in our hometown, married well, given Mom grandchildren. Meanwhile, I'd moved to New York, built a career in investigative journalism, lived life on my own terms. It hadn't been a problem until Mom got sick. Pancreatic cancer, aggressive, terminal from the start. I'd flown home immediately, ready to help however I could. But Rachel had other plans. Mom needs stability right now, she'd said, her voice dripping with false concern. Your busy life in New York, your unpredictable schedule, it's too disruptive. I'll handle her care. And so it began. Every time I tried to visit, Rachel told me Mom was too tired. When I called, Mom was always sleeping or in too much pain to talk. Slowly, surely, Rachel began spinning her web of lies. She told our aunts I was too busy with my career to care about Mom. Told our cousins I refused to help with medical bills. Told our family friends I'd abandoned Mom when she needed me most. And all the while, she controlled access to Mom so completely that I couldn't defend myself. I pulled away from the curb, memories of the past year flooding back. The desperate attempts to see Mom, the blocked phone calls, the text messages Rachel sent pretending to be Mom. Messages I later learned Mom never knew about. But what Rachel didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd spent those months doing what I do best: investigating, documenting, gathering evidence. Mom's nurses had been particularly helpful, especially after they witnessed Rachel's behavior firsthand. "Your sister's been intercepting your cards and letters," Maria, Mom's favorite nurse, had told me during one of my few successful hospital visits. "Your mom keeps asking why you never write." That was when I'd started keeping records, dates, times, witnesses, every instance of Rachel's interference. I'd even managed to get security camera footage from a hospital showing Rachel throwing away the care packages I sent. The USB drive shifted in my pocket as I turned onto the highway. Mom had given it to me during my last visit, just 2 days before she slipped into the coma that would claim her life. Rachel had been at her kid's soccer game, and I finally had a moment alone with Mom. "I know what she's been doing," Mom had said, her voice barely a whisper. Maria told me everything, but confronting her now would only make things worse. She pressed the small drive into my hand. "This is your insurance policy, Emmy. Use it wisely." I hadn't watched it yet. Part of me was afraid of what I'd find, but another part knew Mom was right about timing. Rachel had spent a year building her narrative. The devoted daughter caring for our dying mother while the selfish sister abandoned her family. Dismantling that story would take more than just accusations. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "You okay?" That scene at the house looked pretty intense. I pulled into a coffee shop parking lot to respond. Maria had become my ally throughout this ordeal, keeping me updated on Mom's condition when Rachel blocked my access, making sure Mom knew I was trying to be there. "I'm fine," I typed back. Rachel finally did it, convinced everyone I'm the villain in her story. But Mom left me something that might change everything. Maria's response was immediate. The USB drive, she told me about it, said it would show the truth when the time was right. I ordered a coffee and found a quiet corner table. My laptop was in my bag. I could watch it now, finally see what Mom had left me. But her words echoed in my mind. "Wait until you really need it." Instead, I pulled out my reporter's notebook. Old habits die hard, and began writing everything down. The scene at the house today, Rachel's accusations, the family's reactions. I learned long ago that details matter, especially when you're dealing with someone who twists the truth. Rachel had been clever. I had to give her that. She'd started small, planting seeds of doubt about my character, my commitment to family. Then, as Mom got sicker, the lies grew bigger. "Emma's too busy with her career to help with Mom's care. Emma refuses to contribute to the medical expenses. Emma doesn't even call or visit." Each lie built on the last, creating a picture of a heartless daughter who'd abandoned her dying mother. The fact that I'd been sending money monthly, calling daily, though Rachel usually blocked my calls, and flying home every chance I got, though Rachel usually prevented me from seeing Mom, didn't matter. Perception had become reality. My coffee grew cold as I wrote, documenting every detail of how Rachel had systematically turned our family against me. Aunt Sarah, who'd once been like a second mother to me, now couldn't look me in the eye. Cousin Mike, who'd been my best friend growing up, had blocked my number. Even our childhood neighbors, the Petersons, had turned away when they saw me at the funeral. The ultimate betrayal had come today, when Rachel had gathered the family to read a letter she claimed Mom had written before she died. A letter that painted me as a heartless, selfish daughter who cared more about my career than my dying mother. I'd known immediately the letter was fake. The phrasing wasn't Mom's. The sentiments didn't match our last conversation. Even the signature was wrong. But Rachel had timed it perfectly, presenting it when emotions were raw from the funeral, when everyone was looking for someone to blame for their grief. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Maria. "Just so you know, that letter Rachel read today. Your mom never wrote anything like that." I was with her those last weeks. The only thing she wrote was a note telling you she was proud of you. I smiled sadly. Maria had been there through everything, watching Rachel's manipulation with growing concern. She'd even offered to speak up to tell the family the truth, but I'd asked her not to. Rachel would only twist it, claim Maria was lying out of loyalty to me. No, this had to be handled carefully. Mom had taught me that sometimes the best defense isn't an immediate reaction, but a carefully planned response. Patience, she'd always said, is more powerful than anger. The USB drive seemed to grow heavier in my pocket. What had Mom left me? What truth was she waiting for me to discover? Back in my hotel room, I finally sat down with my laptop and a USB drive Mom had given me. My hands trembled slightly as I plugged it in, remembering her final words about it. The truth will hurt, Emmy, but sometimes that's necessary for healing. The drive contained a single video file, dated 3 weeks before Mom died. I took a deep breath and pressed play. Mom's face filled the screen, gaunt from chemotherapy, but her eyes clear and determined. She was in her hospital room. I recognized the pale blue walls and the small window behind her. Emma, my sweet girl, she began, her voice stronger than I remember from those final days. If you're watching this, then everything has happened as I feared it would. Rachel's lies have done their work, and you're probably feeling very alone right now. I paused the video, tears blurring my vision. Even at the end, Mom had known exactly what would happen. I wiped my eyes and pressed play again. I need you to understand something, Mom continued. I know everything Rachel has been doing. The blocked calls, the hidden letters, the lies she's been telling the family. Maria has kept me informed, and I've been watching, gathering my own evidence. The screen changed, showing security footage from a hospital. There was Rachel, intercepting my care packages at the nurse's station. Another clip showed her turning me away during a visit, telling me Mom was too sick to see anyone, then letting other family members in just minutes later. But that's not the worst of it. Mom's voice continued as the video returned to her face. I've discovered something much more serious. Rachel has been stealing from me, Emma. She's been forging my signature on checks, accessing my accounts without permission. My journalist's instincts kicked in immediately. I grabbed my notebook and started taking notes as Mom detailed the financial abuse. Dates, amounts, account numbers. Mom had documented everything. I've put all the evidence in a sealed envelope with my lawyer, Richard Stevens, Mom explained. Bank statements, forged checks, everything. But I didn't want to confront her while I was sick. I knew she'd twist it somehow, use my illness to manipulate the situation. The irony was staggering. While Rachel had been painting me as the greedy, career-obsessed daughter, she'd been systematically draining Mom's accounts. There's more, Mom continued, her expression growing more serious. Rachel's been pressuring me to change my will, to leave everything to her. She claims you don't need the inheritance, that your success in New York means you don't deserve any help. But I've seen her bank statements, Emma. She and Tom are in serious financial trouble. The big house, the luxury cars, the lavish lifestyle, it's all built on debt. I paused the video again, remembering all the times Rachel had bragged about her perfect life. The 5-bedroom house in the best neighborhood, the expensive private schools for her kids, the fancy vacations. It had always seemed like she and Tom were living beyond their means on his middle management salary. The video continued with Mom pulling out a stack of papers. These are copies of Rachel's credit card statements and loan documents. Maria helped me get them. Turns out Rachel's been using my hospital room to receive her financial documents, probably to hide them from Tom. They're nearly bankrupt, Emma. That's why she's been stealing from me, why she's so desperate to control my estate. The screen showed close-ups of the documents, credit card statements showing hundreds of thousands in debt, past due notices for their mortgage, collection letters from various creditors. Rachel's perfect life was a house of cards on the verge of collapse. I've left instructions with Richard about how to handle this, Mom said. The evidence of Rachel's theft is there if you need it. But Emma, my brave, compassionate daughter, I'm leaving the decision to you. You can use this information to clear your name, to show the family who Rachel really is. Or you can find another way. Mom's face grew softer, more tired. I know you, Emmy. You're like your father. You believe in justice, but you also believe in mercy. Whatever you decide to do with this information, I trust you to do what's right. The video ended with Mom looking directly into the camera, her eyes filled with love and trust. Remember, sweetheart, the truth isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about giving people a chance to face their own demons and find redemption. I sat in silence for a long time after the video ended, processing everything I'd learned. The USB drive contained more files, PDFs of the financial documents Mom had mentioned, photos of the forged checks, even audio recordings of Rachel pressuring Mom about the will. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "Did you watch it?" "Yes," I replied. "It's worse than we thought." "What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? I could take this evidence to the family right now, expose Rachel's lies and theft. It would destroy her, but it would also hurt her children, damage Tom's reputation, tear our family apart even more. Or I could do what Mom suggested, find another way. I opened my laptop again and started researching. If Rachel and Tom were really in that much debt, there had to be public records. Sure enough, I found tax liens, civil judgments, even a pending foreclosure notice on their house. The perfect life Rachel had built was about to implode, with or without my intervention. The question was whether I wanted to be the one holding the match. The next morning, I drove to Richard Stevens' law office. Mom's attorney was expecting me. She'd apparently left detailed instructions about what to do after she passed. "Emma," he greeted me warmly, leading me into his office. "I've been waiting for you to come. I assume you've watched the video." I nodded, taking a seat across from his desk. "I need your advice, Richard. Not just as Mom's lawyer, but as someone who's known our family for years." He leaned back in his chair, studying me carefully. "You're wondering whether to expose everything?" "Yes," I admitted. "Part of me wants to call a family meeting right now, show them the video, prove that Rachel's been lying. But your mother raised you better than that," he finished with a gentle smile. "She knew you'd struggle with this decision. That's why she left you this." He handed me another envelope, this one in Mom's familiar handwriting. Inside was a letter, dated just days before she slipped into the coma. "My dearest Emma, by now you know the truth about Rachel's actions. You're probably angry, hurt, and looking for justice. Those feelings are valid. You've been wronged in ways no sister should experience. But I want you to remember something about Rachel. When your father died, she was 12, old enough to understand what we'd lost but too young to process it healthily. While you found strength and independence, she developed a desperate need for control and security. I'm not excusing what she's done. The theft, the lies, the manipulation. These are serious wrongs that need to be addressed. But perhaps there's a way to do that without destroying her completely. You're an investigative journalist, Emmy. You know that sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about exposing wrongdoing, but about understanding why people do wrong and helping them find a better path. Whatever you decide, know that I trust your judgment and I'm proud of the woman you've become. All my love, Mom." I folded the letter carefully, feeling tears well up again. Even at the end, Mom had been thinking about both her daughters, trying to help us find our way back to each other. "There's something else you should know," Richard said, pulling out another file. "Your mother made some arrangements before she died. She knew about Rachel's financial troubles, so she set up a trust fund for her grandchildren's education. Rachel can't touch the money, it goes directly to the schools. She was protecting the kids, I realized." "Yes," Richard nodded. "And she left the family home to you, Emma, not to punish Rachel, but because she knew you'd do the right thing with it." I thought about our childhood home, filled with memories of happier times. Rachel's kids had practically grown up there too, spending afternoons with Mom while Rachel and Tom worked. Suddenly, I knew what I had to do. An hour later, I texted Rachel, "We need to talk. Come to Mom's house at 2. Come alone." Her response was quick and angry. "I have nothing to say to you." "Then just listen. Unless you want the family to see Mom's video." At exactly 2 p.m., Rachel's car pulled into the driveway. She looked terrible, eyes red from crying, hair uncombed, nothing like her usually perfect appearance. "What video?" she demanded as soon as she walked in. "What are you trying to pull?" Wordlessly, I opened my laptop and played Mom's recording. Rachel sank onto the couch as she watched, her face draining of color as Mom detailed her theft and lies. When it ended, we sat in silence for a long moment. "Are you going to show this to everyone?" she finally asked, her voice small and broken. "That depends on you," I replied. "Mom left me the house, Rachel, and I know about the foreclosure notice on your place." She flinched. "How did you?" "I'm a journalist. Finding information is what I do. I took a deep breath. Here's what's going to happen. You and the kids can move in here. What? The house is paid for. The utilities are manageable. You can get back on your feet, work out your debt issues. But there are conditions. Rachel's eyes narrowed. What conditions? First, you come clean to the family about the lies you told about me. All of them. Second, you get professional help, therapy to deal with your control issues and financial counseling to handle the debt. Third, you pay back every penny you stole from Mom's accounts. And if I refuse? I opened another file on my laptop, the one with all the evidence of her theft. Then I go to the police with proof of your financial fraud. Your choice. Rachel's facade finally crumbled completely. She buried her face in her hands and began to sob, deep, racking cries that seemed to come from somewhere ancient and wounded. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she choked out. The debt just kept growing, and I couldn't tell Tom, and then Mom got sick. I know, I said quietly. Mom knew too. That's why she left us a way to fix this. Over the next few hours, we talked, really talked, for the first time in years. Rachel confessed everything. The spiral of debt that had driven her to steal, the fear and jealousy that had fueled her lies about me, the overwhelming pressure of maintaining her perfect facade. 2 days later, we called a family meeting. Rachel stood up, shaking but determined, and told the truth. There were tears, recriminations, angry questions. But there was also finally honesty. 6 months later, Rachel and the kids are settled into Mom's house. She's in therapy, working through her grief and control issues. Tom filed for divorce when he learned about the hidden debt, but the kids are doing better with a more stable, honest mother. The family is healing slowly. Some relationships may never be the same, but new ones are forming based on truth rather than pretense. Yesterday, I found Rachel in Mom's study, looking at old family photos. Do you think she'd be proud of us? She asked softly. Of how we handled everything. I thought about Mom's final message about her belief in redemption over revenge. Yes, I said. I think this is exactly what she hoped for. The USB drive sits in my desk drawer now. A reminder that sometimes the hardest truths can lead to the most meaningful healing. Mom knew that all along. She just needed us to figure it out for ourselves.